Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we have our family podcast, Big Sam and Nephews. How you doing, nephew?
What
Nephew
up,
down in Atlanta. The other nephew will be on shortly. Other person normally is on with us, Sherry. She had a knee operation recently, so she probably, took some pain pills or something. But the beat goes on, right?
I was gonna say she's hot, but that would be nice.
Ooh, that's not nice, huh? But I want to get right at it. I got a guest today, and I'd like to introduce him, if I may, please.
Please do.
Go ahead. All right, I want to introduce Dominque Byrd, who's our guest today. How you doing, Dominque?
Blessed, Big Sam. Yourself?
Hey, same. Blessed too. Always blessed, man. Now I got to go back because I've known you, since what, junior high school?
Yeah, at least. Probably fifth or sixth grade, something like that, really.
Well, the thing is, I'm old, so. But no, and then you end up going to went to high school. You went to go ahead. Tell us
I
what
was at Breck. Breck from first grade all the way through.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the other thing was, now how'd you end up? Because you got to go back because you got drafted by I'm an SC. I'm a diehard SC fan. I love SC. So I remember you told me one time because I asked you. I said, "How did you end up going to SC? How did you end up going to SC?"
Man, going on that visit. I think I was a part of the Pete Carroll's first recruiting class, and going up to California in January, it's like 2 degrees here. It's like 77 in LA, and going on that visit, having the opportunity to pick my schools that I would get to visit. And LA was just, something that I couldn't turn down. I really couldn't.
I agree with you. Now, weren't you part of the Reggie Bush class also?
Reggie was the class after me, so I was Pete Carroll's first class, and that was Reggie's class was the next year. But we went in the draft at the same time because he went as a junior, and I was a senior that year. So,
and what was it like playing for Pete?
It was a very professional environment, is what I would say. If you as a young person really understood what work ethic and all that stuff was about, then you looked at it as a business trip, and that's rare for a young person in a lot of ways to understand that. But it was great to be competing and winning for for the whole time we were in college. It was definitely a different experience when everybody in your, that you're practicing against goes to the league, and you have that to look forward to. So it's kind of like the expectation. So the learning curve is sharp.
Now I gotta say this: it's just my own opinion. My favorite play for you at SC was you were on the road. The terrain was really, really messed up, and you guys were losing to Oregon State.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And that pass that you caught in the back of the end zone, the sixth man, that is one of the most outstanding catches I've ever seen in my life.
Man, I appreciate that. That was the Oregon State. That's the fall game. That's what everybody remembers that. And that was just a time, like you said, we were losing, and Coach Norm Chow, who is just one of the great offensive minds of college football, called my number, and so that was one of the things about everybody going to the league and that being an expectation, is that when your number is called, you rise to the occasion. I was just, super blessed to have that opportunity, and I got to play at that game, and there was like a big inset of ESPN, the magazine that, my mom, of course, and everybody just bought up that magazine. So it was a really dope occasion for me to have that opportunity on such a big stage,
Yeah, I just remember that play, and I was like, it just brought, I'm an SC fan, so it just brought joy to my life, man. It really did, So anyway, you go on, you go to SC, you leave SC, and then what happens?
I was drafted by the Rams in the 2006 draft, and I was the 93rd pick in the third round of that draft. And of course, that shows my age because the Rams are now in Los Angeles, of course. But yeah, so the Rams were where I started my my NFL career, and again, another sharp learning curve.
Now, and just tell me this: high school football has gotten a lot better here because a lot more guys are going to college. Not so much the University of Minnesota, but now let me ask you this: was the University of Minnesota, were they one of the schools that were after you?
Yeah, they were after. They recruited me early, and the thing about the U for myself, and I think I went to Breck, but I started off playing at McCray, and have did between running for Hospitality House Striders and doing traveling basketball for different teams, Washburn and South, and then Streets and Magic and all this stuff. I mean, everybody that I knew was kind of recruited by the U of M, but it's kind of, as a young dude, we never saw them catering to Minnesota talent. You know what I mean? Like we never saw, the guy from Minnesota that got all the run, and so they were missing that link in the recruiting process. So, I mean, let's be real. If all of the guys that I grew up around went to the U of M, I mean, we would have had basketball, football championships, all kinds of, just so yeah. I mean, I did go to some games and stuff like that, but I can't say that I took them seriously because, the guys that I grew up watching, the Khalid El-Amins, like when North and Jabbar Washington and all those guys are playing, like none of these guys matriculated to the University of Minnesota, so it didn't start that legacy. So we didn't see it like that,
And that's funny that you say that because, and I've been involved in sports is just my whole time here, and I've watched players grow up, and it was like you just never seen the U just seemed to just never really just something about the U that just didn't not until lately have they started going recruiting guys for the University of Minnesota, but still. Not really, because we got blessed with Tyler Johnson, and he's a phenomenal athlete within himself.
Absolutely.
But besides Tyler, who else? And Rashid, we had him who played down in the Falcons. But besides those three, you really didn't have anybody, as far as football goes, or basketball for that matter too.
Right. I mean, think about it. At that time, Allen Anderson leaves and goes to Michigan State. When Troy Bell, left and went to Boston College, and I took a visit out there. You had, what's our guy right before? I went to Valparaiso. I forget. Oh my gosh, that name escapes me. But, Khalid goes to UConn. Like these are all people that, you're either around, or if you're around the sports scene, you see all these guys. And then, the guys that I went to McCray with, the Derek Robinsons who goes to Iowa, and you know what I mean? Right. Like all of this talent that was right here. We all knew each other, you know what I'm saying? But, it just wasn't in the cards. Just they didn't have that link to the community. And so, you would hope that that they would see it, but we know some of the undercurrents that go out here in Minnesota, so it's just
right.
It's tough
Absolutely.
to turn that thing around.
It is sad now because you look at basketball, they didn't do well this year, and they're probably going to get rid of the coach, and it's like, and the biggest complaint about Pitino was that he can't recruit, but then you start counting on the number of guys that come out that just don't go. People just don't look at the U anymore. It's like a joke, and it's like, and I'm gonna be honest with you, they don't even for football. They'll get a couple of Caucasian players, a couple of them, but most of those guys they get are not the African American, the top notch African American players they go on somewhere else. You know, I could just name all these basketball guys. You know, it's pathetic to me because you just look at all these all these teams, and it's like the Jones brothers that went to Duke, they weren't going to stay. You had the Suggs, he went out to Gonzaga. You know, then I look on TV, the boy that went to Champlain Park that plays at Colorado, McKinley, he didn't stay. Then you look, you know, you can go
David Roddy that went to Breck is out at Colorado State. You know what I'm saying?
then you can look at Theo, Theo, who's at Marquette. He didn't stay here either. Nobody stays here, and there's got to be. I know why, because you know they don't really they kind of go softly at these athletes, knowing that they're not going to go. They say, well, he wasn't going to go here, and it's like, yeah, but did you really put a hard push on the guy? No, no.
Push on him. Like, I mean, they do the same thing like down here in Georgia. You know, for a long time it was, you know, you have all this talent in Georgia. You know, I mean, Georgia would get the running backs and some other guys, but they didn't hard press until maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Because, you know, you go 7-7 in the SEC, they're like, man, you got to go. We don't care if you want a chance. You got to go. You know, they started pressing these guys down here like, dude, like you can't have like some of the top 300 talent down here, except for, I mean, the only person that didn't go, I mean, we had Trevor Lawrence is from Georgia, but he went to Clemson. So that's literally like an hour and a half away. So you got to compete with all these schools, but then it's like in your area, you got University of Minnesota and who else? There's nobody else like as a D1 level to compete with. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I definitely understand. I mean, you know it from firsthand where it's like, dude, I mean, and then at the same time too, though, you look at it from your career standpoint, it's like, man, at your time that you came out, I mean, I graduated high school in 95. So I'm like, dude, what am I about to do? You know, you got to compete with all these dudes that you already know. But then at the same time, it's like, yo, I'm about to make a career decision because I have my goals intact. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, what should, you know, and then when coach comes calling, it's like, oh, snap. You know, I know it. And so I get, you know, you have both sides, but then again, it takes like one person to say, look, I want to stay here and make my mark.
Well, if guys did that, you know, then you probably start a trend. But when guys are still popping out and going to the East Coast, going to the West Coast, going to the Pac-12 and whatnot, then it's like, you know, okay, you know.
No, but I mean that's the thing. It's like you can't blame them. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't say, you know, Dominque, you should have stayed. You know, somebody said that. I mean, you probably got that. You know, oh, you should have stayed home. Man, look, I got other things on my plate where you got to look out for you. But then at the same time, when you're so young, like now looking back at it, you could you know, when you hindsight 2020, right? So you could say, look, I had one of the other guys, we could have went there, but like you say, the coaches aren't pressing you. So it's like you don't feel no love. You got somebody out on the west, you got somebody on the east, you got somebody down south, you got somebody, they all loving you. They like, bro, you come here and start. You come here, man, you're gonna be an all-American. You just, man, I mean, if they're not doing that, then you're not gonna feel the love. So I definitely get it. So
well, you know, Minnesota doesn't show you any love. And then the other thing is, like Dominque said, the middle of January,
oh yeah,
it's 2 degrees, and you get a recruiting trip to California. I'm waiting.
Yeah. You set me up for a recruiting trip up to Minnesota. It was like -15. I was like, no, I'm good. I'll stay down here in Atlanta. Straight.
But see, if it feels like family, then more guys will be, you know, more guys will go. And
right.
Y'all know from being, I mean, well, Big Sam, you know, from being in Minnesota, you know what the feel is when you go over to the U of M campus. You know what I mean? Like, if you Black, you hope that you're one of the athletes because, you know, it's just something about it. You know what I mean? And so, and if they don't, like you said, if they don't make a strong push, like if I went on a visit to California, or, you know, when I went to Boston College and Troy Bell hosted me, they were smart. Like, you know, like that was the Minnesota guy. But the feel should be around the U of, man, like we want to keep our talent here, and this is what we do to showcase that. And this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's very intentional, and when it's not, you feel it.
No, and you're right. And that's what happens is that guys don't feel the love of the organizations at all. But then you go somewhere else, and then bam, you get all the love you need, plus the weather too.
Right, right.
But you were still in South Central, man. I don't understand this, man. God damn.
But it's just, and then now, and then you went on to NFL career, and then you played for the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
And who else you play for?
Cardinals, the Washington Football Club, or whatever their name is right now, and shortly with the Seahawks.
Right.
The 4 teams total.
Well, that's cool, you know, because you had a nice little lengthy little NFL career. Because I think what happens is it's kind of like now you're retired and you've gone and come back, and I'm great. It's great you've come back here, you know, to kind of serve your community now. But you know, a lot of times too, because you're a Minnesota baby,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, both your parents, you know, are work very hard in the community. Your mom, known your mom for years, known your dad for a long time. Your dad's couldn't find a nicer guy. Really couldn't. Nice dude. Oh, your mom's a nice lady too. They're all, but you know, that's a lot of times, you know, and I'll say this to say that if you come from good stock, which you do, you know, you get blessed in a lot of ways, because you can retire from football and come back here and then get open arms. It's like, oh, that's Dominque Byrd, or that's Jeff Bird's son. You know, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
But your dad was quite the athlete too.
Well, yeah, he absolutely was. For Central, you know, Minneapolis Central, who, you know, is not around anymore, but man, those guys had some of the greatest teams, and you know, some of the great competitions. And a lot of people don't know, because my mom was not from here, but my mom was quite an athlete herself. So they both, like, from both of them, you know, my mom played basketball at MCC, and you know, like you said, my dad won, I think, 3 state titles in the 100-yard dash. Lost his senior year, I think, but you know, just like, you know, a storied, both of them very storied and competitive. So I think definitely being able, you know, between them two, knowing half the city, absolutely, there's been opportunities just you know, coming back and wanting to do something positive in the community. And you know, I'm very blessed to have them, and like to be able to come back and see both of my parents within the same week is something that I didn't have when I was back in California, or, you know, when I lived in some of these places. So, you know, I'm really thankful for that.
Now, what are you doing now?
So I'm working at Breck now. So a retention specialist, and you know, the extended day program manager, as well as working on some things. I have a book I'm working on, and you know, just some more ownership opportunities. But you know, I just came back here August, so you know, I haven't even been back a year. But it's been really dope just to come back and see some of the people, but also to like try to catch on to what's really going on in our, you know, in our communities. And you know, there's a balance, you know, because anybody that is from Minneapolis really knows that you know, you try to balance how you feel personally with what's going on outside of you in these, you know, in the streets. And you know, trying to have a perspective for the things that that are going on, whether it's gun violence or, you know, our community is in a lot of ways, you know, suffering. And so, you know, just trying to figure out ways that I can be as instrumental as possible as I've come back, and still maintain the personal balance of what my everyday's got to be. So,
well, that, you know, and that's interesting that you say that, because it's like you're from here, you were raised here. I think Minnesota kind of gets a real creepy little, you know, like, especially now that we had the riots and all that stuff last year. I think this town has now been on the map now for the
Mm-hmm.
all the wrong reasons,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what's kind of, for me, I'm not a Minnesotan per se, but I mean, I've lived here long enough and I've been entrenched in the community for so many years now, so I understand. But I'm thinking that, but what I'm learning though is that things are going to start changing. Though I really believe that they're going to start changing for the better, because what's kind of happening is, all the old dogs like myself. I mean, we're all fight it out, you know. But the young
Mm-hmm.
people like yourself, man, they have to sort of carry the torch for us as a people to just
Mm-hmm.
keep it moving, man.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's definitely just one of those things. I was able to do a couple of things on some initiatives with Athletes in Action, and those are just. I mean, I don't look at myself as like an activist or something like that, but I'm definitely a Black person. You know what I'm saying? I'm a Black male, and I support my Black folks, and I also understand what the struggle is, and so. It's really important to have a whole perspective of the things that are going on in Minneapolis. Like you said, we've been on the map for some of the wrong things, but I have a lot of people that I still love that are from here that have been really instrumental in the man I've become. And so like trying to figure out solutions, like I said, to some of the things that have been going on in the city is really important. And like that, people continue to take these strides in trying to add positivity. Before, when I was back, I worked at, Henry High School. And so, for like 2016, 2017. So, and my dad's still at Henry and my mom works at Whittier School. So, really getting a sense for the things that are needed is really important to be able to help. If to not have an arrogant edge, but to immerse yourself in the community and figure out which way you can help open a door.
Well, what I found is that, well, I don't know if I'm right about this, but at least half the people that I know that I've worked with over the years have all come back, and they've worked here now, in Minneapolis, which is great. Now, a lot of people decide, hey, it's too hot, it's cold here, and that's fine, you move on. I understand that. But, just use yourself, for instance. You kind of gone away and did a lot of fantastic things, in the sports realm and in the non-sports realm now. But I think you got it figured out now that, hey, I'm going to come back home and I'm going to start working in my own community, because you're from here,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so, you're just, you're putting some work in. So that's what I find. What's a real cool thing is that at least you're coming back here to Minnesota, because Minnesota's kind of like, when I first heard about Minnesota, I remember a long time ago, I met a girl that was from Minnesota, and I didn't know nothing about Minnesota at all. I said, where's Minnesota at? So I know, and so now I live here, right? I've been here for 35 years now. So I get it. I understand, there's a lot of those things that go on, but a lot of stuff I don't agree with it, but I understand what it is. But I'm thinking that what happens is that, because people say, oh, how come you don't move? I said, I missed my chance many years ago. But I'm so glad that now I'm glad I stayed, because, I'm still being able, even though I'm not on the radio anymore. I did that for 22 years, but I had this podcast, and this podcast to me was the right. I just did it originally. We've been on it for a year and a half now. By the way, subscribe to that, Dom. To this.
Yep.
But it just kind of. Oh, by the way, I want to say this. Drew Brees is retired now officially.
Okay.
Oh, snap. That's news.
Right. I just saw it popped on my phone. I saw the news.
Breaking news.
Right, the breaking news, and he's gone. But getting back to what I was saying is that it's just, it's great that we can have some of the young athletes like yourself that, hey, I'm gonna come back here. I'm gonna do my work here in the community and try to help better my community and have different advantages for my community that I live in.
I think it's certainly really important. And like, me growing up, I just knew you always as Big Sam, whether I saw you at a Timberwolves game or whether it was, hearing you on Camo J or, but seeing you around the community. And it's what's certainly important is that when you said something about me having to figure it out, and I'm like, man, listen, these trials and these things these points of elevation that I've had to survive or continue to climb are the reason that I'm able to be here and be balanced and understand that I'm blessed. Like, the things that you do as an athlete get put up on this certain pedestal, but everybody who's been in the athlete game knows and understands that the higher the money, the greater the politics, and we call it politricks. So it's one of those things of where if you have the mentality early to be about your business, get enough money and get out, that's the dope thing. But when I say the learning curve is sharp, it's a thing of where people, most of the times, people haven't been able to tell you how it's going to be being an athlete unless they've been an athlete, And so what I find the correlation here is that people like yourself that have been around the community, and when you stop being an athlete, to take to gain some information and take some of the knowledge from somebody like yourself who's been around, and been absorbing and soaking in and figuring out the game and being able to have these connections. I feel like that's what's, really important, because I think we're all like, trying to continue to figure it out, be better people ourselves. But coming back home and having people who humble you, but people who also have seen you from a young person, and being able to have the kinds of conversations that let them know what kind of man you've become, I feel like you get, I believe that God is very intentional in your life. So you get the opportunity to be a part of some things that, I'm from South Minneapolis, born and raised. And yes, this is a hotbed of a lot of action, and there's a lot of things that really need to change. And there's some precedents that need to be set in the laws and things like that. But like I said, it's important to be able to soak in the knowledge from somebody like yourself, to be able to keep imparting to our youth, like the way to move around about this world, and, trying to understand more things and getting the right kinds of education. And you know what I'm saying? Like, these are things that take a lot of people, a lot of effort for our community to, like, buy into buying Black, for our streets to figure out how to be safe and protect our own and things like that. So there's a lot of work to be done, but, just because the young folks have like the fire, we have to really realize and understand that, some of our OGs, yes, exactly. We want to come together because some of our OGs may have the blueprint, or may have, a piece of the game that we need to get to that next level. So, like I said, these conversations and these opportunities are really important to take the most of, because we're all trying to figure this out, a way to a way to solve these issues that we all see.
You're right, and I want to thank you, Dominque, for making that comment about me, because I myself personally just try to do the right thing, period. I don't try to do, and I've done the wrong thing enough in my lifetime. So now try to do the right thing. So I try to do the right thing. So part of my thing, my right thing is seeking out these ex-athletes and just people in general that want to come on and talk about themselves. It don't have, I had somebody this week was texting me that's going to be my guest, outstanding person. And she said, well, what are we going to talk about? I said, just let it go. Sister, just let it go.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna find, and she'll find it out, just like you did. You'll find out. It's like a give and take. When I just touch on a few things and then step back and let you talk, it's like, wow, he's doing. And I'm thinking that makes for a great show for me. I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
Well, how
Dominique,
much time we got, nephew?
we got like 7 minutes. Like 7 minutes.
Oh,
Hey,
okay.
Dominique, I got a quick question. So, being an ex-athlete, especially a pro athlete, how do you find a way to really connect? Like when you connect to the youth, if it's preschool all the way up, but the teenagers, what I'm saying, 13, 14, that's when they start changing, right? How do you
Mm-hmm.
find a way to connect to them outside of sports? Because, and I'm asking you this because I know we all went to school, right? And got our education, blah, blah, blah. But besides sports, I was been taught, from my mom is, hey, look, sports is is number two, three, four down the line. Your education is first. So I mean, I tore my ACL and did all this stuff. I couldn't go play pro, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, it's like, man, I work in IT. I think a lot of people now are athletes, and we said this last week, where I was pushing our children to, he's going to be the next LeBron James. He's going to be the next this. He's going to be the next that. I'm not saying to knock it, but how do we connect to them on getting the, like you said, getting the education? Because hey, you are one broken ankle away from being out of there. They don't know it's a business. High school is a
Mm-hmm.
business too, so they don't know that.
That's a really good question. So I think first of all, the way that I connect with kids now is to understand, like, just as, if I'm talking to a preschooler, I'm 6'3", right? And if I want a preschooler to hear me, I'm going to drop to their eye level in order for that preschooler to see I'm not standing over them and I'm not enforcing anything. And I think as a person who's 37 and out here, people, I may look younger in some ways, but I try to come to the younger generation of, and I know Big Sam, you see me as a younger generation, but I try to come to those younger than me with a place of humility. And the reason that I do is because you don't know what kind of parenting and what kind of base that young person has. And so if it's always me feeling like I'm older, so I need to tell them something, then you're denying that child or that teenager of their experience. And they may communicate different than you, but that doesn't mean that they're wrong because they don't use English the same way as you or those kinds of things. So coming from a place of humility and getting to the eye level of a young person is the best way for them to understand that I see you, you know what I mean? And if a young person feels like you see what they're talking about, like you would listen to them, then your chances of having a dope conversation or actually making, having some leeway within a conversation and being able to build is something that can certainly happen. And to the other part of your question, with these people who push their children to being athletes, I just say that to be careful with doing that because there's high level politics going on. But we also have to realize as well that when we come to kids about education, that we know that what's being taught in the schools is not what's the money makers out here in the world. You know what I'm saying? Right. And so we have to come with the humility of, hey, look, we haven't changed it yet, but knowing like there's got to be some balance of taking care of your business and creating opportunities for the things that are really going to help them make money. You know what I mean? Right. So like having that balance of new technology and that kind of stuff. So if those are things that I think about when it comes to youth.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I know when I talk to younger kids who see me play basketball 20 years ago, I'm like, oh man, I used to be playing pro-ams and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, what do you do now? I was like, man, look, I've been in IT for 25 years. I've been doing this game for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been doing this. I mean, some people they only know me as playing basketball. Some people only know me as hooping or being funny. But I'm like, nah, man, I got a real job. I got 4 kids, ex-wife. I'm like, man, I'm a real person. So then they start, and I see some kids when they start growing up. They ask me about things, and I'm like, I know how to talk to them about life. About what I've been through, ups and downs. So yeah, I'm definitely, but I do tell them, like, man, look, school is a game. You just got to learn how to play the game. It's like I learned, SAT was the game. I knew how to play the game. How to play the game. So, yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one, though.
Well, thanks a lot, Dominique, for coming on today on our podcast. And, in the future, we'll offer you the opportunity to come back on anytime down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, blessings to you for having me. I thank you for your time. And, I look forward to connecting with you in person. I know when this COVID thing, lets its grip off of us, we'll have to get together and politic the right way.
Okay, well, real good. Thank you very much, Dominque Byrd. Also want to thank my nephew, and we didn't have my other nephew on the day, didn't have Sherry on the day, but like I said, the beat goes on. Big Sam and Nephews. Thank you very much. We'll see you all next week.